Hi, my name's Dalton Buckner, and I chose to read Leading from the Second Chair. Um, it's kind of funny how that book got chose for me. I honestly was going to pick a different book, but it was available, but it was also a book that my leadership coach wanted me to read, just because of where my goals are for future ministry and leadership in general. So the book was pretty interesting. It covered some interesting what they call paradoxes for second cheerleaders. So basically, how they thought of a second cheerleader was someone that is leading by influence, but is not the main leader. So they basically have as much influence as they can within that role, but they're able to lead in a subordinate kind of role, but they're also a leader. So they have to find that balance between being a subordinate to whether it's a senior leader or as your boss or whatever it may be, but also being able to, be a leader to those around them, including leading up to the leader, which is a very interesting paradox in and of itself. The book claims there's 3 paradoxes for a second cheerleader. The first one is subordinate leader. The second one they like to talk about is deep wide, and the third one is contentment dreamer. With the first one, I really kind of enjoyed that one because it's probably one of the harder ones for me, just trying to learn how to lead while also being under somebody. It's kind of a hard, process, because you kind of want to be able to freely do what you want, but you also know you want to continue to help build your boss up and make them look good, but also understand you're supporting them. So it's kind of a hard thing, especially they said for people that already know that they're meant to be a first cheerleader. So people that are in waiting for that, it's kind of hard because they want to have that ability to make the last decision. I really enjoyed also just the examples they used. They didn't just stick with church examples, but they used nonprofits, they used ministries, they used churches, they used other businesses as well sometimes, but rarely. And it just helped you be able to truly understand what they're trying to express. I think sometimes for us it's a little hard with a paradox because you have to figure out how to be in the middle of them, and it's kind of like, why do I have to? And this book kind of teaches you not only what those issues are for being a second cheerleader, but how to deal with those and how to learn to, kind of be joyful in the moment, even if you know you're not going to be there forever, or you know that this is where you're going to be for a long term. You just have to learn how to navigate that. The second paradox was also quite interesting, the deep wide paradox. So what they really mean by that is that you need to learn whatever your position is and be a master at it. You need to learn every little detail and be able to do it pretty much just like a machine, kind of, in a way. Be able to do it correctly, know what you're doing. That way you can also be wide in terms of learning all the other jobs around you. So in like a ministry context, you have your executive director who might be over discipleship ministry, but they're also learning and understanding how the youth ministry is doing, or children's ministry, or the adult ministry, or the prayer ministry, or whatever it may be, and they're learning what they can about those, but still being a master in their current discipleship field. So that's the hard part, is learning how to be deep in your one field that you're supposed to be the expert in, or learning to be an expert in, while also being able to influence all the other ministries out there and being able to have a good knowledge so that you're able to express that what's going on inside the church or the nonprofit to the senior leader or your boss in general. And it's a hard one because you can cross lines you don't really know are there. Sometimes your leader gives you a little more freedom than other ones would, or sometimes you make a decision not thinking about talking to the person above you, thinking it's okay, and in reality that hurt your relationship with them. So a big major thing about being a second cheerleader is that relationships truly matter. You need to have a good working relationship with your first cheerleader. They call it kind of like a marriage. You're going to have your ups and downs. You have to build that trust with them to be able to really earn that ability to be a subordinate leader, or earn that ability to be deep and wide in your context, in your role, which is kind of hard because we all have our weaknesses, whether that's the first chair or the second cheerleader or others around you, and you're not always going to agree with what they decide, and it can be hard to take a back seat and just support at times. And the third paradox they went to was the contentment / dreamer, which is also can be really hard for people that know they're really called to be a first cheerleader. They're just not there yet, and so they have to learn to be content where they're at, where God has placed them, but also learn to keep dreaming, keep instilling that dream that God has given them for whatever role that might be in the future. It's kind of hard as well. The first and the third one are really hard, especially for me. But the book was something I really needed. I think it's something other leaders really should be reading as well, especially people in ministry. It's just something that just really helps you understand how to best be a servant leader where you're at, because it's kind of hard to be content when I'm not really, this is not where I want to be my whole time. I don't want to be a youth minister for all my career, or I don't want to be just a manager at a nonprofit. I want to move up, and sometimes that happens quickly, sometimes not. In the book they showed some interesting examples of some people went from first chair to second chair, and they had to learn and adjust to that role. Some people went from the second chair position to a new second chair position. Some went from second chair to first chair. And each time it's really about learning to trust those around you, learning to trust your first chair, and helping them learn to trust you. Some situations are really hard because you're not going to earn the trust of your first chair, just because of their own weaknesses in giving out that trust, because they can sometimes feel like you're gunning for their job, even if you're not, and it can be kind of hard, especially if there's not enough communication and trust where you understand where those boundaries are and you respect each other enough to work through those issues you may have. You might disagree with what your first chair decides, but it's probably not the greatest idea to sit there and object to that in the meeting with everybody else around you, but something you could easily probably talk with them about in private, just to understand what they're really trying to say, but also let them know this is where I'm at in that. This is where I really thought we were wanting to go. But even then, you still got to be careful with how you do that, which can be really hard, just in terms of words. But I think the book was really helpful just to teach me, but also to be able to help me realize where other people might be. So I might be a second cheerleader at my current role at a government agency, but I have other people around me that are also second chair, but there's some people that are first chair. There's some people that really want to move up, and some that are just pretty content where they're at. And so it's interesting to see how that book has helped me understand other people and where they're at in their own walk with leadership and what that means. A lot of people probably have the wrong idea of leadership. So it's been really interesting to work with a leadership coach who came from a ministry context and kind of started his own leadership coaching. So it's kind of interesting that we were able to get that at a government agency, but it's been really fun being able to stretch myself. So learning, how do I be the best subordinate leader for my current boss, who gives me a lot of flexibility to do what I want to do, but still has to make the decisions at the end of the day. And how do I make decisions that are best for the program we're doing without overstepping my boundaries? Luckily, I have a boss that's really easy to get along with in terms of trust and communication. They're just a really good boss in that sense. And so I've been blessed with learning, how does a first chair, what does that look like them responding in a graceful way, even if you have messed up? Or how does that look like in terms of what does a leader really look like? So it's been really fun to do that, and I've really enjoyed it. And I think that if you read the book as well, you would really enjoy it as well, because it's just something that's going to be a good resource for you. And it's going to help you in your own context, whether you're in ministry or you're not. For me, it helped me, even though I'm not in a ministry role currently. And I've just been really thankful for that book, because it showed me where I was lacking. It's kind of hard to be content sometimes, especially when you want to be in ministry, but you haven't got that opportunity yet. And learning to really be content where I'm at, and just continue to do what God wants me to do where I'm at, and just figuring out what that looks like. And the book's really helpful in that as well, just showing you how other leaders have fared in that, especially people that know they want to be a first chair but are struggling in that second chair sometimes, and they've managed to flourish in those roles because of being able to be content and being able to be a dreamer. So I think the paradoxes are quite true. It's kind of hard to understand them sometimes, just in terms of how varied they can be depending on your context. But I think once you truly read it and truly understand it, it'll be a blessing to you as a resource for understanding leadership from a second and first chair perspective, because it also has little tidbits at the end of each chapters of the main points for first chair leaders and understanding what those paradoxes look like from a first chair perspective, which I also found very intriguing as well. And I hope you end up getting the book and reading it, and that it helps you out.